The man convicted of killing his ex-girlfriend in 2015 is back in court for a second day.
46-year-old Robert Burton is currently serving a 55-year sentence for the shooting death of Stephanie Gibo. After shooting Gibo, Burton hid in the woods for nearly 70 days before turning himself in. Now he and his attorneys are challenging his conviction.
One of Burton's former attorneys, Zachary Brandmeier, was called to the stand to testify about the trial. His current attorney questioned about failing to call several types of expert witnesses. Neurologist and psychiatrist Dr. Maurice Preter also testified.
He testified Burton suffered neglect from the hands of his father. Dr. Preter testified that Burton was sexually abused by males and threatened suicide at one point during his upbringing. The judge will make a ruling at a later time.